Welcome to In Touch. I'm Officer Don with Fayette Commonwealth's attorney Ray Larson. What you got for us this week, Ray?
Well,
On this episode of In Touch with Officer Don and Ray the DA, directed and produced by Christy and Chase, we will discuss why your legislature isn't discussing the true cost of crimes.
To keep criminals in custody. And the conversation...
Ray the DA and Officer Don talked about the out-of-pocket expenses victims are stuck paying for on top of the emotional cost that crime had on their lives. The unfortunate fact that the U.S. has a higher crime rate than a number of other countries, which also means the prison population is also higher than others. As always, Ray advises you to speak up and contact your local legislature for any questions and concerns you may have.
Have you ever seen, Officer Don, a cost-benefit analysis of comparing the cost of incarceration versus the cost of crime? Have you ever seen it?
I've not. You have presented these things to me before, but as far as seeing it in the media, no, that's not ever presented.
Well, and that's because they don't want you to know. They always say that the prisons are full of first-time drug offenders. First-time drug offenders. They get caught with a marijuana cigarette, or what do you guys call that? A blunt, or a roach. Is that an old term?
Those are old school terms. I don't know what the new ones are. I'm a little out of the loop on that.
Right. Well, at any rate, it's not the way it is. First-time offenders almost never go into custody. And a friend of mine is the prosecuting attorney in Arizona, and they had to pay for a survey of the prisoners in the Arizona prisons because the prison system wouldn't do a study like this, and they wanted to know about who makes up the prison population. And I'll guarantee you prison populations are essentially the same in every state, the percentage of types of criminals that they are. Violent offenders, including sex offenders in Arizona, 53% had sex offense prosecutions. Repeat offenders, remember these are the guys that, the 5% that commit so many of the crimes, 84% of the prisoners in Arizona were violent or repeat offenders. If you compare the violent and the repeat offenders, which is the vast majority of inmates, there's 44,000 inmates they have in Arizona, 95% are either repeat or violent offenders. Now, that's who goes to prison. Now, for these people who say, let's just quit sending people to prison, they're just basically saying, have at it.
And without doing this analysis in Kentucky, we know those numbers are going to turn out to be pretty much the same.
Yeah, that's the point.
Those are the people that go to prison, and you'll see. Look, working in violent crimes, it was not unusual to use a drug charge to help get someone in custody until you can wrap up the murder case. It's, you know, if you've got a murderer, you want to get them off the street as quickly as you can, and maybe you don't have quite enough evidence yet. You know that person committed the murder, but so you use whatever charge you can, and that's where you see this. Well, they're in jail on drug charges. No, they're in jail because they've committed violent crimes, and we know it, and they just happen to be drug users too. Because guess what? I would give you a stat here. I would say that 90% of your violent offenders, other than domestic violence offenders who have different motives, are probably on drugs. They're drug users in some way, shape, or form. Drugs and alcohol, we'll throw that in there too. That almost every single homicide, you're going to see a connection there, right?
That's exactly right. One of the...
In Touch is broadcast every Sunday on all iHeart radio stations. Listen in as Officer Don and Ray the DA discuss hot topics about the criminal justice system.